So with that, we're managing the markers. We're able to tap the map. Now we also must pass a selected location back to the Add Place screen. And of course, you learned before in the course how you can pass data back from screen B to screen A. Here in On pressed on this icon button, we can use Navigator of Context and pop this screen, and pop allows us to set some data that will be passed back to the screen we came from. And here I'll simply pass back my picked location. With that, we just have to go to the Add Place.dart file and wire up these different things. To be precise, we should go to Location Input, which is the actual widget responsible for picking a location. And in that file, in that widget, we got this button, this one, for selecting a location on a map. And here I now want to trigger a new method, a method which I have yet to add. I'll add it maybe right above build. The exact location does not matter. And I'll name it select on map. And it's now this function that will be connected to this button down here. And inside of select on map, we now want to use the navigator of context to push a new route, the material page route, where we in the end load the map screen, which of course therefore also must be imported as always. Now this map screen will eventually return the picked place because we're passing it back here with pop. It will pass back such a latitude, longitude value to be precise. Therefore here in location input we can add async here, and with async added we can await this to get the picked location. And we should add this generic type annotation to push to make Dart aware of the type of value we will get back. And here this will be such a latitude, longitude object. And for lat longitude to be available in this file, you also must import the Google Maps Flutter Dart file, this package here. So this one. And with that added, we have the picked location, which is of this type. At least it may be of this type if the user did not navigate back without saving. So therefore here we want to check if picked location is null. So if maybe no location was picked, in which case I'll just return here and not do anything else. But if we do have a picked location, we of course want to use that picked location. And what does using mean here? Well, in the end, it means that we again want to get the address as we did it here, and then update our state with the latitude and longitude and the address. And therefore, we could of course copy all that code, but to avoid this unnecessary copy step, I'll instead add a new method here, which I'll name save place, where I expect to get a latitude parameter of type double and a longitude parameter of type double. And it's now inside of save place of this newly added method where I want to get the address and update my state, and also call on select location. So therefore I'll cut this code from the get current location method and add it here in save place instead. Of course here I need to update my injected values in this string because now we have latitude and longitude instead of lat and lng. Here we should also add async so that we can use await. And therefore implicitly save place will return a future. And we can also reflect this here that we will return a future, which then won't return any value inside of it though. And down here we also have latitude and longitude for creating the place location. But with that, we can now call save place from inside get current location. So here at the end, I can call save place and pass my lat and longitude to save place. So these two values here. And in select on map, I also want to call save place here. And now pass the picked location dot latitude as a latitude value and picked location longitude as a longitude value. And with this change made, it won't matter how the location is selected, if we do that automatically with the user's location or manually on a map, we will always get this address with this step here and then create such a place location and also communicate this to the parent widget, so to the add place screen. Now here we can add const. And here we also don't need to set is selecting or location, because is selecting is true by default anyways, and the default location also is fine for me. And therefore here we should be good to go, and we should now be able to pick a place on a map. If we go back here, and maybe also reload to make sure that everything starts from scratch, and I add a new place, take my picture, and then select on map. The map opens. I can tap somewhere, and the marker is added there. And if I then click back without confirming, I don't see the place here. But if I do go back and pick my place and then save, I go back, but now this place is shown here. And now if I add this place indeed was saved, and I can also preview it here without being able to save this place. I can still tap somewhere and move the marker though, and of course that should not be possible. And to make sure that it's not possible, back in map.dart, we can go to this on tap listener and simply check whether widget is selecting is null, in which case I'll set on tap to null, which will simply disable this listener. And I'll only set it to this function if is selecting is not null. And of course here I don't want to check for this to be null, but instead if it's false, and therefore we can also shorten this and check for not widget is selecting. This exclamation mark at the beginning means that we basically invert this Boolean value, and if this is false, not is false returns true. If this would yield true, not true would yield false. So therefore now if we're not selecting, on tap will be set to null, otherwise on tap will be set to this function. And with this change made, if I now tap here, I can't move the marker. And we still don't have the save button, I can only go back like this. And with that we got all the place related functionality that we want to have. Now the last big feature that I want to add to this app is that all that data is saved on the device, so that if I restart the app, because I closed it for example, the data is not lost anymore.